This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
To She Wasn't Born Yesterday for women who are 40 plus fabulous by the Empty Nest Chicks. I'm Janet Evans, ex-M&T Saatchi advertising creative who have won numerous radio and TV awards. Not that that'll affect us because we're doing a podcast.
And I'm Dr. Amelia Haynes, who has been a medical doctor for 30 years and specialising in sexual health and mental health and relationships, and I'm generally a very useful human being.
Well, we'll find out about that, but we are here to work together.
People tell me on good authority that I am.
Really? Yes, well, they never say that to me, so I think we're the perfect hosts for She Wasn't Born Yesterday. Dr. Amelia, today we're going to talk about one of the most exciting topics that I'm so excited about because I'm so obsessed by true crime that we are going to talk about true crime obsession with an absolute expert and legend. But why do you think women in particular, and the stats show that, women more so than men are obsessed by true crime? Why do you think that is?
I have a feeling, because I also am pretty obsessed, I have a feeling though it's a bit multifactorial. Is it the good bits of us that are attracted to it, or is it the less good bits of us? I don't know.
You mean
I think we see it as entertainment, which is the less good bit of us, but we also kind of listen to it and are obsessed, I think, because we're worried about us and our children, and do we know how to pick someone who's going to be a threat to us. Exactly.
Or worse. Or make you disappear and never be found again. Yeah, I think the interesting thing, I think it kind of falls into two categories. Like there's the ones where they have solved the crime and they know who the killer is and they've found the body, and you kind of, I guess.
I like those ones.
There's this, really? Because
I love
I'm in the opposite. I like the ones that are unsolved and you just constantly going over in your mind, when you hear about all the evidence and all that stuff, you think, is there that little piece missing that's just kind of, what is it that's going to give a window, a solution into where that person
Answer
is?
the question.
Yes.
You like that's what they call closure, I think. You know how they say
I like
closure doesn't exist? They say
unanswered question. I
like the
unanswered question. I kind of do. I obsess over that. But in a way, I kind of don't because I enjoy the suspense.
I hope you're not expecting our guest today to answer your questions.
I am actually, because today we are going to talk to someone who's truly remarkable in the legal sphere, who has brought to justice many, many, many murderers in his time. He was the New South Wales Senior Crown Prosecutor for over 20 years and Crown Prosecutor for 15 years before that. He is a KC now, not a QC anymore.
Yes.
He's also a counsellor, barrister, law professor, author, and, just to top it all and make us feel like underachievers, an award-winning photographer. It is the amazing, amazing Mark Tedeschi. Hello.
Hello. Pleased to be here. Thank you.
Mark, thanks for giving up your time to be here. It's just
my pleasure.
Fascinating to talk to someone who has confronted many, many criminals in your time, and looking through your famous guilty convictions, it includes the backpacker serial killer Ivan Milat, Simon Gitani, who threw his fiancée off a balcony, Robert G murdered 5 family members, Kelly Lane found guilty of murdering her 2-day-old baby daughter, and is going to be released on parole in the near future, actually, I think.
I think she's coming towards her parole period, yes.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And back in the day, Bruce Burrell, who was convicted of killing...
I know, he's been busy.
Yes.
Basically, he's worked hard and he's been busy.
Very incredibly busy. But are you obsessed with true crime? Is that what attracted you to the legal profession?
Look, I always wanted to become a lawyer from when I was 5.
Really?
Seriously, when other little boys wanted to be policemen and
spacemen
or pop singers or whatever, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I think it was because my father was an interpreter in court. He came from Italy and he would interpret for Italian defendants in the magistrates' court. And he'd come home with these incredible stories about people that he'd interpreted for. And I think it's that initially made me interested in the law. But I never thought that I'd become a criminal lawyer. I always thought I'd become a commercial lawyer because my first full-time job was as a lecturer in commercial law. And then when I went to the bar, I thought, well, that'll naturally progress to commercial law, but it didn't. It took me in the direction of criminal law, and I've never regretted it.
Right.
I think the criminal law is absolutely fascinating. It's challenging, but it's a constant lesson in human nature. You see the good side of people, you see the bad side of people. You see people who have been in extraordinary circumstances, both as victims, as witnesses, and as accused people. And the trial process itself, the criminal trial process, it's got lots and lots of rules and regulations and procedures, but it's actually all designed to try and achieve justice. So we are fortunate that we have a wonderful system. It's not perfect. It occasionally makes mistakes, but it's one of the best in the world, I'm quite convinced.
That's reassuring.
I was going to ask you, first up, I guess, is there one case in particular that's absolutely stayed with you and you're obsessed about, you cannot get it out of your mind over the years?
People have sometimes asked me, what's the most important case that you've done? And I say the answer to that is really easy. It's whatever case I happen to be doing at that particular time, because every case is important to the people who are involved. And even now that I'm a private barrister doing mainly defence work, it's still really, really important to the people involved. There were cases in the past that I found more difficult than others, mainly because there was some personal aspect that affected me at the time. When I first became a Crown Prosecutor, I was working at the Penrith District Court and I was travelling cross-country to get to the court every day. And I was doing mainly culpable driving causing death cases. And every car that was coming towards me, I was sure was just going to go straight into me.
Right, yeah.
So I was a bit paranoid. And then when I had very small children and I was doing quite a few child sex cases, I became a bit paranoid about my own children's safety.
Of course, yeah.
There was one case in particular that I found very, very hard, which was a case in which a husband and wife had split up. They had, it was either 2 or 3 children, and the husband became insanely jealous when his ex-wife got her first new boyfriend, and he murdered his children in order to punish her for having done that. And I just couldn't come to grips with a man who would murder his own children to spite his wife.
Sadly, there are a few examples of that.
Yeah.
So how do you rise above that professionally?
It was hard.
Right.
It was hard.
Do you have a technique that you use, or do you just try and switch off?
I'm fortunate that I have a nature that I can, when I go home, I can just put it aside and focus on other things. So I think I'm lucky that I'm like that. I also have a number of other interests.
Like award-winning photography.
That I have, like photography.
And
that
bonsai.
have kept me sane.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes,
Making
indeed.
really small trees.
Well, my wife says that I torture trees by cutting their roots and their leaves.
It's revenge. Taking out that frustration.
Yeah. So having other interests I think is very important. There have been a couple of cases that I've done where I have deliberately refused to look at the physical evidence because it was too horrific.
Right.
And I felt I could conduct the case quite appropriately without seeing it. They were both video images.
Right.
And when I was in court, I deliberately didn't watch the video and didn't listen to the video, and both times my opponents thought that I was doing it for some sort of effect on the court, but it was not. It was to protect myself, because there are some things that when you've seen them...
Were they jury cases?
One of them was a jury case, the other one wasn't.
I'm just feeling very sorry for the jury.
The jury had to see the video in the one case I'm thinking of, and the other case was a trial by judge alone. It was a gross child sex case where, again, it was all on video and the judge had to see it, but I didn't.
Yes.
So I think
So you chose not to.
I chose to protect myself. Yeah.
Yeah. But you were prosecuting that person who was accused
prosecuting.
of doing that.
That's right.
Would that not have made you even more passionate about prosecuting that person, knowing the horrific nature of what they'd done?
Look, one tries not to bring emotion into it. I think you can be a more effective advocate on either side, but either for the prosecution or for the defence, by maintaining a professionalism, not getting too emotionally involved. I know that there are some prosecutors and some defence counsel who do get very emotionally involved, and I think it affects their ability to stand back and see the wood for the trees. And on the defence side, I think being too close to your client is not a good idea. You can be a much better advocate if you maintain a degree of objectivity. So for all of those reasons, I've never been tempted to, become emotionally involved in a case. I try and maintain a degree of objectivity.
Yeah.
At the same time, one obviously wants to see justice done.
Yes.
On either side. And if one gets a result where one feels that justice has not been done, then one has to steel oneself, because that's the way the system works. So you have to accept that the system, the integrity of the system, is the most important thing of all.
Yes, and that basically you've done the best you can,
That's
presented
right.
the best case, but it didn't happen.
Correct.
When you get briefed, you must get stacks and stacks of paperwork surrounding, like, oh, here's all the evidence, here's what everybody's said, all that sort of thing. How do you approach what you do? What do you actually do with all that?
It's become more difficult over the years. It used to be that you'd get a fairly clearly defined brief where all of the statements were of witnesses that you're likely to call in a trial.
Right.
Whereas now, because of the duty of disclosure to the defence, you get given hordes and heaps and tons of paper, because that's what the defence are going to be provided with, so that they can't complain later on that they weren't given everything,
Right.
that disclosure wasn't complete. So these days you tend to find that part of your role on either side is to try and sort out what is the important part of this brief from the rest of the mountainous heap of paper that you've been given, or sometimes it's in electronic format, but I prefer physical format, hard copy.
So do you find your solicitors and even good members of the police force very important for knowing where the gold is amongst all that paper, amongst all those trees?
One relies very heavily on both of them. I mean, for example, in many cases now you have telephone intercepts.
Right.
And you might have 1,000 hours of telephone intercepts.
Yeah.
Well, no Crown prosecutor or defence counsel is going to listen to the whole lot.
Yeah.
So you've got to rely upon someone to say, well, this is what's important.
Yeah.
So yes, you do, and you hope for the best.
Yes.
Yes.
And so you have to condense all of that stuff into
Yes.
a case
Yes.
that you're going to present to the jury
Yes.
and also to the defence. So when you do your opening address, is that the world's biggest condensation job?
Absolutely.
Of like,
The opening address is really important because when the Crown prosecutor does his opening address, he's setting out his or her case for the jury, and it immediately sets the tone for the whole trial.
yeah.
And if it's a good, convincing case, it's going to be really hard for the defence to overcome it.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's got weaknesses in it and there are obvious gaps,
Yeah.
then it's going to be hard for them to be filled. So it's really important. So
So you like to slam dunk it straight there.
well, to a large degree, yes, but I also think it's a very good opportunity for a Crown prosecutor to make sure that you're on top of the brief.
Yes.
And I believe that your preparation should be so comprehensive that you could do it without any notes.
Yeah,
so
sure,
you should know the case so well that if required, you could do it without notes. I mean, generally we do use notes, but it's a really good way of getting it into your head.
For example, with Ivan Milat, do you remember what your opening address was in that case?
Oh, look, only in a vague sense. What I remember are the different categories of evidence that we had. There were many, many different categories of evidence. and putting together a Crown opening in a case like that really requires you to try and put it in a way that the jury are going to be able to follow and put it all together in their head, so right at the beginning they can see where you're going. The analogy that I give to juries, which many of my colleagues have now copied, juries
Must be
probably
good
think
then.
they're very clever, is this. I say to them, doing a trial, a criminal trial, is a bit like doing a jigsaw puzzle, with each piece of evidence being a piece of the jigsaw. And what I'm doing now in my opening address is I'm showing you the box with the picture on it,
Right.
so that you can know what the final picture looks like, and that's going to help you put the pieces together.
Yeah.
And then I say, at the end of the day, there might be some pieces missing, because most cases have some pieces missing. But if you can still see what the picture is, that's all we need to do.
Yeah.
We don't have to have every piece of the puzzle in a criminal trial.
Yeah.
Because beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean you have to have evidence about everything. You just have to have enough evidence to convince the jury.
To see the picture, basically, like see it emerging.
Okay.
That's right.
But so, for example, where there has never been a body,
Yes.
I mean, that's entirely like you would have to build a circumstantial case, is that right?
Correct.
Like,
Absolutely
but
correct.
how do you do that beyond reasonable? Oh, yes. The Mark, was it?
Missing.
Bruce Burrell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bruce Burrell
Beautiful
trials.
book by Mark about his case.
Shameless promotion here.
I was going, well, no, but the proceeds go to...
Proceeds have gone to charities that support victims of crime and the families of missing people.
Right.
So I was going to say, don't think it's shameless. It's not a shameless promotion. It's a really good promotion of an awesome book.
It's called Missing Presumed Dead. Those are two cases
Yes.
in which Bruce Burrell was convicted in each case of the murder of a woman. And in each case, the body had never been found.
Yeah.
So you're quite right. You still have to prove death. So you have to prove it circumstantially. With a body, obviously, it's easy to prove death.
Yes.
There are many ways that you can circumstantially prove death, and in the case of the Bruce Burrell trials, it wasn't that hard because each victim had totally disappeared off the face of the earth from one day to the next.
Right.
Without trace, without contact, without accessing bank accounts or services, without leaving Australia, without contacting anybody, without having access to huge amounts of money in one case. And so it was not that hard to prove death.
Oh, okay.
Much harder if you have a very young child who doesn't have the sort of social background and contacts and bank accounts and various other access to services that an adult has.
Yeah, like I was fascinated by that Kelly Lane case, and of course there was a documentary not that long ago. But and you talked in that documentary about building this circumstantial case. But yeah, I was thinking how difficult it must be to prove it beyond reasonable doubt, and I was wondering what that bar is for reasonable doubt. Like,
It can be hard. Sometimes the evidence that you've got implicating the accused in the death is the same as the evidence to prove death.
okay, what do you mean by that?
Well, if you can prove that somebody must have killed someone, then obviously they're dead.
Yeah, right, yes. Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes the evidence is the same, but not always.
Now, can I just intervene in this fantastic discussion?
I love this. This
I
is so
know
good.
you love
I love
it. It is so obvious
so
that you are
obsessed.
just loving this, loving this, loving this.
best.
But I'm just, I'm just bringing you back to the whole idea of women loving true crime.
Oh, yes, true.
Since we are talking
This
to
is
our
right, I
audience.
forgot about that.
Yes. And a large proportion of which I'm sure would love true crime for various reasons. And I think it's good, actually. It's probably good for us all to think about why am I obsessed? I have my own theories as to why I'm obsessed. No, I'm not going to share those with the audience.
Tell us. That's why we're here.
No. Anyway, but I was thinking that, the one thing that I wouldn't want to be guilty of is the thing that James Wood said in, like, the ex-High Court judge with Underbelly, the series, which was so popular. Everyone was so excited if they got a small role in Underbelly, which was dealing with the awful deaths and brutality of organised crime, largely in Melbourne, wasn't it? It was just so distasteful. And, of course, it was dramatisation. But he did point out that because it was drama, it was kind of seen as being entertainment. And would we really want to be guilty of liking true crime because it's entertaining?
Oh, sure.
I know.
It is entertaining. It is entertaining.
Well, listen to that.
Because it's escapism. It's not a normal part of most people's world, is it? Like, I
know, but people are alive still and they're hurting. Like, it's just awful. I'm sure when Underbelly was on, it was actually really skewering and horrible to a lot of people. So
that's an interesting part, like, because when you're in a trial and you're prosecuting, you're there to prosecute someone, make sure justice is done, you're obviously aware that all of their family and friends and relatives are there, and they obviously love that person. And
I try and forget that there are people in the back of the court. In fact, generally you're facing the front of the court.
Right.
And every now and again I find that if I've got to walk up to the witness box to show a document to a witness and I turn around, oh my God, there's people in the back of the court. What are they all doing there?
Photographers there, everything. Whoa!
It is really good to try and forget.
Yeah.
And try and focus on what you're doing.
Mind you, write in a bit, like Mark has written lots of books, which are very entertaining, are truly entertaining in the true crime kind of, like, they're marvellous, they're amazing, but they often are very historical. And so the people have well and truly died, or if, there are kind of relatives who still exist, they tend to be great-grandchildren or so on and so forth. But in the Bruce Burrell thing, which we mentioned before, there are a lot of people who can remember that and who, even have a mother who was involved in that. But Mark, you write a really beautiful thing at the beginning of the book that really acknowledges that this particular book that you wrote does deal with one of your cases, and it does have people who are still alive.
Yes, I've written 4 true crime books, and this one, the last one, Missing Presumed Dead, is the only one about one of my own cases.
Oh, okay.
The others were all historical. And, I had to think very carefully about the fact that there were still families of the 2 deceased women. One of those families was very positive about me writing the book. The other family, not so much. And I know that Bruce Burrell has some family members who are very much alive.
Yes.
So it's one of the considerations in whether it's appropriate to write a book. I decided it was appropriate for a number of reasons. Firstly, Bruce Burrell had passed away.
Okay.
So that was important. The second reason is that apart from an autobiography of my former boss, the DPP, Nick Cowdery, he had a biography which he wrote together with another author. Apart from that, in Australia, I was not aware of another book written by a prosecutor about one of his or her own cases. And I thought that it'd be really educational to explain to the ordinary reader how a trial progresses, and in particular, how a really complex, difficult criminal investigation takes place, and then how a complex, sophisticated, difficult trial takes place after that. So I thought it was really educational. And a lot of people, non-lawyers, who have spoken to me about it have said that they learnt so much about the process.
Well, it's kind of comforting in a way too. Like, it's not as simple as, I can't even think what the TV shows are. Well, exactly. A few good men or the TV shows, they're like LA Law. It isn't that. It isn't that.
Yeah. Doesn't get solved in an hour.
Yeah. But a lot of people have said to me, you're going to write another book. There's none of my other cases that I think are obviously suitable for that at this time. I am looking at another book, but again, it's a historical case from the 1800s. The other 3 books that have been published, the first one, Eugenia, is what I think is the most remarkable case of a criminal trial in the whole of Australia's legal history. It was a 1920 prosecution of a woman called Eugenia Fellini, who had lived for 20 years as a man in Sydney, had been married twice without either wife knowing that they were married to anybody other than a full-blooded Aussie male. And in 1920, Eugenia, under the name Harry Crawford, was charged with the murder of his first wife. And it was a case that attracted the attention not just of the whole of Australia but the whole world. And it was a very difficult trial. It was conducted by my very first predecessor as Senior Crown Prosecutor, and the Defence Counsel was woefully inadequate to the job, and I think that there was possibly an injustice that was done, so I wrote about that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
My second book was about
I highly recommend it to you.
Sounds
a little
fantastic.
addict over there.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it already.
My second book is called Kidnapped. It's about the kidnapping murder of 8-year-old Graham Thorne in 1960. Graham's parents had won one of the very early first prizes in the Opera House lottery, and in those days they publicised the names and addresses.
Oh, really?
Something that
people
they've
had won.
repented of since. Yeah.
And I was very much affected by the kidnapping of Graham Thorne because I was exactly the same age.
Okay.
And I had a picture from the newspaper of Graham up on my bedroom wall so that if I saw him, I could tell my parents and he could be reunited with his family. And that investigation was really the beginning of modern-day forensic science in Australia, and it was a phenomenal police investigation and a phenomenal trial. The third one's called Murder at Mile Creek, which is about the 1838 trial of 11 men for the murder of 28 Aboriginal people at Mile Creek in northern New South Wales. The Mile Creek massacre is well known, but what is not well known is that it was really the only instance in the whole of the colonial period where justice was done for the wanton murder of Aboriginal people. And it could only be done because there were a number of people who did the right thing, the most important of which was the man who conducted the criminal trial of those perpetrators, and his name was John Plunkett. He was the Attorney General of New South Wales, and he was a phenomenal man who did so much for Australia, and yet he's really hardly known at all in Australian history. He deserves to be known as the Martin Luther King of Australia, but he's virtually unknown. And so I wrote that book. And then the fourth one we've already mentioned.
Yeah.
So the other books are all historical ones. And it's, of course, a lot easier to write about historical cases because no one's alive. But having said that, 1920, Eugenia, I located some great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
And do you know that even after 100 years, there was still trauma in that family?
I believe it. I so believe it. Yeah.
Great-grandchild.
Wow.
100 years and still trauma about the case.
Yeah, incredible.
Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah. Wow.
And I also spoke to family of the people on both sides who are involved in the kidnapping murder of Graham Thorne.
Oh, yes.
Terrible, terrible trauma on both sides.
Yeah, you just
to this
don't.
day.
You don't get a picture of that, do you? You hear about a really high-profile trial,
Yes.
case done, job done,
Yes.
person's convicted in jail. That's it. You never hear
For
about
the
the
families,
echo effect
yes.
of how that impacts families. Yeah.
So
yeah.
my question to you two is, why do you think women like true crime?
Well, I've got a theory.
Well, here we
Yes,
go.
please go, Mark.
Look, I've given 30, 40, 50 talks in public about each of my books, in libraries, in bookshops, community halls, clubs, various places.
Tell us about the audience.
And I would have to say that invariably there are a majority of women.
Yes.
Now, if I give a talk during the day, they're generally retired people because they've got the time.
Sure.
They're available. If I give it at night, I get a good mixture of ages, but I still find there's a majority of women. And I think this might be the reason. I think we're all interested in people who do the wrong thing. I mean, from when we're in kindergarten, the kids who are naughty in the playground and get in trouble with the teacher is a of fascinating interest to the other pupils. So I think we're all interested in the people who go against the rules and do the wrong thing.
Yeah,
True.
But I think that as a generalisation, women are more focused on relationships, on position in society, on people who do and don't break those rules than men. So I think that's why women have even more of a fascination generally than men about true crime. There is an insatiable demand for true crime on television, and books,
Netflix,
podcasts, Netflix, you name it. It's something like that.
And maybe it's also, in all truthfulness, because we often, not always, but we often are the victims.
Yes, that's
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
And there must be some sort of that empathy with
Yes.
Empathy
you
and
feel-
also protection, like we're scared for our children, we're scared for
for
ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have prosecuted some women,
Yeah.
but they are a small minority.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
So most murderers are men.
Yes, most murderers are men.
Right.
It's true.
It's particularly hard to prosecute a woman for murder because many people like to think that a woman is incapable of murdering, and often it's a child.
Yes.
Not always, but sometimes. And a lot of people find that very hard to accept.
I feel though, Catherine Folbig, for example, people were incredibly ready to accept that she, had murdered those children. But perhaps just that's my interpretation. Like it seemed, how could this woman just keep having kids and they just keep dying? It's like, how does that work? And Kelly Lane as well, obviously.
Mark, totally lead us on this point. With people with their cases still kind of a little bit, open, I feel like we may need to tread very carefully.
Yeah, I'm sure we do.
I was going to say, I really don't feel that I should be talking about Kathleen Folbig because she has been released recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'd prefer not to comment about it.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
But when you're saying like people would rather think the innocent, I don't know, there seemed to be, or perhaps it was the case that you presented
why is Lady Macbeth more shocking than her husband? I think exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you're in a court and you walk in for the first time, it's the first day of the trial, and you see that person, that accused person sitting there, do you get a sense of, like, how the media likes to beat it all up and say, oh, they're pure evil and, they just emanate this sense of evil. Like, do you actually get a sense of their personality when you're in the court with them?
Look, it's hard to get a sense of personality when somebody's just sitting in a courtroom, and of course I don't get to speak to them.
Right.
The only way that I do get to speak to them is if they decide they're going to give evidence, and then I get to cross-examine them in the witness box.
Right.
Yes.
So you get a good feel then, but otherwise very hard. But I have always tended not to look at people in that way as being pure evil. Often I think people are victims of their circumstances. That doesn't excuse what they've done. It's no defence for what they've done. But I think that it gives them a degree of humanity that makes you a better advocate on either side if you can see that humanity. Even someone like Ivan Milat. Ivan Milat had a dreadful childhood filled with violence and threats and
Dysfunction.
Yeah. So I tend to think of people in that way rather than as being embodiments of pure evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too hollis bolus. You two, obviously haven't met me because I do think there's a strong genetic component. But that's just me. That's just me. So I wouldn't say they're pure evil, but I would say...
You mean predisposed to kind of...
Yes, I would. I
wouldn't disagree with that some people are predisposed.
Yeah.
Mark, has there ever been like a case that you were called to prosecute where you actually think, I think this person might be innocent?
It has happened a number of times. When it happens before a trial, you can do a report to the DPP called a no-bill report, recommending that the matter not go to trial. And if the DPP agrees, then that's the end of the matter. If the DPP disagrees, then some other prosecutor will be asked to do the trial so that you're not put in a position of
arguing against yourself,
arguing
basically.
a case that you don't believe in.
Right.
If it happens during a trial, it's much more difficult.
Right.
because one does have an obligation representing the community to put the case at its best and advance the case fully. But if, whilst doing that, you come to the conclusion that this should not be a conviction,
Okay.
there are certain ways that you can conduct yourself as a prosecutor that are commensurate with that. And what you can do is, rather than arguing for a conviction in your closing address, you can say, well, this is the evidence for conviction, this is the evidence against conviction. It's a matter for you.
Okay.
Right.
And I remember one case that I did fairly early in my career as a prosecutor where a man had been charged with having had sexual intercourse without consent with a young woman in a suburban Sydney train early in the morning. And she had, in effect, frozen with fear because of past trauma. Didn't say no, didn't say anything, just literally
Froze.
And I came to the conclusion during the trial that I was absolutely sure that she had not consented, but I was also utterly convinced that he thought that she was consenting.
Okay. Yeah.
And of course, as a prosecutor, to get a conviction, you have to prove both. That she was not consenting and that he knew she was not consenting.
Right. Okay.
So that's the way that I dealt with that case. I pointed out to the jury all of the evidence, including the evidence that, there was an incredible lack of evidence upon which he might have thought she was not consenting, and he was duly acquitted.
Right.
Which was the right decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I might add, he let her get out of the train at her stop and gave her his phone number to have contact later on.
Because he thought he was so indeed innocent.
It was like a date.
Don't have sex early in the morning on
a
Sydney
train.
trains.
Don't do anything early in the morning. That's what I say.
Sometimes I'm sure it's totally consensual.
And what about for a defence lawyer? Say you were asked to defend Ivan Milat, for example, or someone who, there's so much compelling evidence to say they're guilty. How do they go about their case?
Look, it's different for a defence lawyer.
Yeah.
A defence lawyer has to represent their client doing their best, whatever they think of whether the client's guilty or not guilty.
Yeah.
You cannot just abandon your client or make concessions about your client because you think that they're guilty. That's not your role. That's the jury's role. Your role is to advance as many arguments as you can think of that have veracity and that are within the law to try and get the best result for the client.
Yeah. Which may be, I suppose, a better sentence sometimes.
Well, sometimes that might place you in a difficult position where you think deep down that there's a very poor case, but the client insists on going to trial. I've been fortunate because I only went back to the private bar as a mature age advocate, approaching retirement age when I say mature age.
40 plus fabulous.
Yeah, something like that, which meant that, and as a senior counsel. So what I found is that if I form the view that the case against my client is a very strong one or an overwhelming one, I will tell them and I will say to them, I think you should plead guilty because you get a lesser sentence by pleading guilty.
Okay.
And what I can offer you is that I'll do my best to get you the best possible result in terms of sentence.
Right.
And I have yet to have a client who hasn't followed my advice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
right.
I haven't been put in that invidious position.
Right. So basically, they were guilty and they knew it and they decided
They were
to.
prepared to admit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Hence them getting a reduced sentence, one would think, even originally.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yes.
What do you think about that no body, no parole law that's come in?
Look, I'm actually not in favour of it
Okay.
for a variety of reasons. Firstly, history has shown that there have been no bodies that have been found as a result of that law.
Right. Okay.
How long has it been in effect, though?
Oh, in New South Wales, not long.
Okay.
The only body that's been found was as a result of a deal that was done by the police with a suspect, with the consent of the family and with the consent of the Attorney General, that a promise was made that if the suspect identified where the body was, they would not be taken to trial. They would not be charged.
Oh, right.
And the suspect accepted the offer that was made, took the police to where the body was that was found.
It's a big thing.
It was a gay partner who
Yeah, I
had
remember
murdered
that.
Right.
a young man.
Right.
And the family were happy to get the body back so they could give it a proper burial, and that was a decision that was made by all concerned.
Right.
That's the only case that I know of, but that's different to what you're talking about. The reason I'm against it is this, that the whole system of jail discipline and order relies upon people who behave well in jail getting parole. And if you take away that incentive, then there's no reason why people should try and rehabilitate themselves or try and do the right thing in jail, try and educate themselves. For all of those reasons, I think it's counterproductive, and I don't think it'll result in bodies being located.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going to talk about this on another show, but I was going to say, it seems to me unknown people, trying to manipulate the guilty into playing ball, and quite a lot of them take great relish in not playing ball, and then it seems to me a very manipulative kind of attempt, like a desperate.
Well,
like,
it could be a power trip, couldn't it? Like, I hold all the cards, I don't need to tell you anything.
It is a power trip.
Well, with Bruce Burrell, that was exactly the case.
Yeah, it is a power trip, and there are many.
He was approached by the police in jail, and I think he enjoyed the fact that he held all of the cards.
Because you still hold some power. And I was going to say, there are lots of people over, I know in the UK, and I'm sure in America and everywhere, where the same thing is true. They know there are more, but they love holding on to that until the grave, basically, because it means they retain power.
Yes. There's another reason also that I explore in Missing Presumed Dead. My experience is that for somebody who's been convicted of a dreadful, dreadful crime, like an awful murder, most people have someone on the outside who still believes in them.
Yes, that's right.
It might be a spouse, it might be a parent, it might be a child.
Yes.
In one case I can think of, there was one person and it was a minister of religion.
Okay.
That contact with the outside world is critical. Because that's really the only contact that they have with the outside world.
That's very kind of you,
and
to actually have that view.
To maintain that contact requires them to maintain their innocence.
Oh, no.
Right.
And I think that's often an important reason why people in jail will insist on maintaining their innocence in order to keep that contact going.
Yeah, right. It's funny how we say, women are more obsessed with true crime than men, but some women fall in love with these criminals and send them letters.
Oh,
and
yes,
it's like amazing to me. It's just like, how
it's very
could
strange.
you?
Well, I think the attraction is it's very easy to have a relationship with someone who's, you visit once a week or once a fortnight.
Well, true.
Don't have to cook for,
No, that's right. I've had many cases where those who are very close to the person accused of a horrific crime are unable to accept that the crime has been committed by their loved one.
Yeah.
It must be so confronting to think that the person that you've known all your life or known for decades and been living with for many years is capable of committing such a dreadful deed.
Yeah, of course.
It'd be very hard.
Yeah. Especially, I think, if they were your child, and you've raised them and nurtured them, because that's a reflection on you too,
I think that's
isn't it?
why the families, as you point out, it's not just families of the so-called victims, it's also the families of the perpetrators who are very vulnerable and very kind of beaten down.
Well, I think they get sort of drawn into that guilt by association, don't they? Almost.
Yeah. I did hear of one woman, though, on some comedy show. Someone was saying that they were doing Tinder, so, all that swiping business. And one of the things that the woman wrote down for her kind of profile was that she was the daughter of a, famous serial killer in America.
I bet she had a lot of swipes.
No, I was going to say, poor her. Poor her, all round, even being on Tinder and anyone swiping left or right.
Early disclosure.
Oh, gosh, right. I know. Oh, dear me, yeah.
This has been fantastic talking to you, but I do want to ask you, where did your interest in photography come from? Is that just something you've always had as well?
I have an interest in art generally, but I'm completely unable to paint, draw, sculpt, sing, dance, any sort of art form, but I can press a button.
Don't be mean, because I was going to say, no. You wouldn't have won the prizes if it wasn't more to do with how you
I have a good eye, I think.
conceptualised what you're going to do.
It's the only art form that I've found I've been able to do, although I must admit I've got a very unusual interest in bonsaiing that it satisfies my artistic bent as well.
Yes.
But is it also a way to, like, if you're trying a really heavy case, is it you do decompress that way?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Well, I'm obsessed with
we can tell you are. We can tell you are.
Fantastic. Yeah. If I was ever going to commit a crime and I wanted someone to defend me, I would want Mark to do that, even though he's a prosecutor. You know what I mean?
That is such a terrible thing to say. But anywho, yes, Mark, you are amazing. But
crime,
anyway,
you know. Okay, last question for you. Okay, just one more.
One more.
Melissa Caddick. Do you think something underhand is afoot with that case in finding that foot? Do you think that's suspicious?
Utterly convinced that she committed suicide.
Really?
Totally.
Why? How? What's the circumstantial evidence?
she lived very close to the gap. I know, she lived very close to somewhere where she could.
There is substantial evidence that the way that the foot had decomposed and that the shoe had decomposed was utterly consistent with it having been in the water for all that time.
Yes, but she could have chopped it off and chucked it in there.
Oh, who's going to chop off theft?
You would if you stood to gain millions of dollars. Well, she can't because she can't
doesn't
access
stand to gain millions
no, that's
of
true.
dollars.
Janet,
Or
she
just
must
her
have
life,
been so,
She got herself into a terrible situation quite openly. She must have known that at some stage it would all come crashing down.
That's what I mean. She must have had an escape plan.
I don't think she had
One
an escape
would
plan.
think.
I think that she was, in a sense, she was a classic narcissist because I think she just decided it'll never happen, and if it does, I'll deal with it then.
Right.
I don't think she had any plan at all. I think she thought she might get away with it forever.
Well, she obviously might have thought that she was very clever. And do you know something? I think we should release Mark now and we can all go and have a good cup of tea.
And read one of his books.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Mark Tedeschi, it has been an absolute pleasure to speak to you about true crime from an insider's point of view.
Don't let us put you off. Come back again.
Yes, we'd love to chat to you again.
I'd be very pleased to.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
We love chatting and we really look forward to all of our special guests and to just chatting with you guys. And we'd actually love to hear from you. You know, we'd love you to send us flowers. I'm a dark chocolate person. What about you? You're protein bar for Dr. Amelia.
I am. I'm so healthy. It's disgusting.
But, we'd love to know if there's burning issues for you. Contact us on hopepodcast.com.au if there's issues that you'd like us to talk about or you really want explored or you think you'd be an expert on. Hit us up and come on the podcast. Come on our journey with us. We look forward to your company.
Hope 103.2. Thanks for listening.